Hey crew, John Jones here, and today on episode of I Stand with EA, we're going to talk about the article that was just released a few hours ago by Jason Schreier of Kotaku. I believe the article is named "What Went Wrong with Anthem." So Anthem game that was released maybe a month and a half ago, at the end of February there. To differencing of opinions, I guess. There are a lot of There are a lot of the community who really enjoy the game, um, who want it to be better. They enjoy it, but they hate it at the same time and want it to be improved. You have those who have played it who hate it, which I find a lot less people. At least, obviously it's a small sample size, but of the majority of people that I actually speak to who have actually played Anthem, like purchased it and played it, not just played a demo, not just played the 10 hours early access or whatever. Um, I actually enjoy the game. They don't hate it. They think there's a lot of problems. There's a lot of things that they like to see improved and fixed as time goes along. But very few of them hate it. Um, Now there are a lot of people who have never actually played the game who hate it. you know, but that's just kind of, I guess, the culture that we've created here. Um, in current society, that it's best to hate something that you have never experienced, right? Never tried it, never did it, never watched it, never played it, but you hate it. Um, which it's an interesting perspective to take such a um, detailed stance. No, maybe not detailed stance. But taking such a entrenched stance on something that you have not actually experienced enough on your own. Okay. Obviously there are people who did the early access and stuff like that. So I played a demo a while. Okay, maybe like you are more informed than people who have not actually even given it a shot at all. But have you really spent enough time with something that is a long progression type game? I'd question it. Okay. So, anyways, the article. What went wrong with Anthem? Now, I'm kind of surprised that this article came out so quickly after the game has released. A lot of times, it usually takes a couple months before uh, enough of the story will come. So, I'll quickly go into the story, but before that, I do want to mention, a lot of these publishers, EA, Sony, Ubisoft, Capcom, come to mind that, in all honesty, if they just did like retrospectives of these big tempo releases that they have, 18 months, 2 years down the line or so, or in the middle of from one release to the next release, they did these deep dive retrospectives where it's not just puff pieces where they only talk about the positive stuff. They only talk about all the pretty aspects of what happened and how amazing it is. Because the reality is there's always two sides to the story, right? There's always what went wrong and who didn't have a good time and how bad things really were before. There's the good and the bad, right? It's the yin and the yang. In all honesty, I think that some of these games that underperform or just barely meet expectations, they probably would rack in a ton more money if the publishers actually sold the deep dive retrospectives on their own. All it would take is one publisher to release one or two of them where it's clearly um, putting all the cards on the table. Obviously the first time someone does that, but I'm not gonna buy that. Like clearly they're not gonna actually give us the grit, give us the dirty, the dirty on what really happened here. But I think after the first time someone does it, maybe after the second time, right? If EA in early 2021, launched a retrospective diary on Mass Effect Andromeda and on Anthem, and really gave us the dirty behind what happened with BioWare's titles. Um, you know, people would probably buy it. They would buy it. I think they actually probably would earn so much off of that that it would make the financials on both of those games look a little bit better, you know, because people would eat it up, in my opinion. That's what I'm thinking. Now, I usually say this at the beginning of the video. I'm not paid by EA. I'm not an EA employee, developer. I have no ties to EA whatsoever. I've never gotten anything free from EA, you know, outside of, you know, actual public access type stuff. So I have no skin in the game. If I was an executive EA, bro, I would have started this initiative right now. When we would go back, I would probably go back, you know, further to games further back than ones that are currently, you know, still on store shelves. But just to let people get an idea, get a taste of what we plan on doing, you know. You know, hey, what went wrong at Pandemic? Watch out, close Pandemic. You know, do something like that. And a deep dive. They'd rack in so much money. People would buy it. People would buy the content. Anyways, so moving into the actual story itself, talking about, you know, the troubled development of Anthem. It's a long article. Very clearly, the project started in the right spot. Casey Hudson was there. He had an idea. You know, members within his inner circle developed this concept for a game. They kind of laid out what they thought it should be, and those people were excited. And honestly, reading that early concept, I'm like, I'm excited too, man. I want like the other Anthem or whatever, you know. I know it was originally called Beyond, according to this article. They couldn't secure the rights to that. You know, I don't care, call it Javelin, whatever. To take some other word from Anthem and give me that survival game, you know. I probably would pull my hair out playing it, you know, going in and getting your butt kicked, and then having to start all over and do it again. It kind of almost thinks of like a wave shooter type aspect, but you know, going to a world and having to team up with people and see how far you can get before you get your butt kicked and sent home, and then you have to come back and do it all over again. That actually sounds like a pretty fun game. Now, I'm not saying that obviously Anthem should become that. I think Anthem should continue to do what Anthem is doing. I actually enjoy the game. I haven't finished it yet. That's because it's a really long game, and Battlefield still takes up time. So, and Firestorm, you know. But I've been slowly and steadily playing through Anthem, and overall it's an enjoyable game, right? They put together an enjoyable package, which is, in all honesty, surprising after reading this article. Now, obviously, there's the yin and yang. There's more to this story that we're not getting. We're really just getting the negative parts of it. But when you have a story called "What Went Wrong with Anthem," what do you expect, right? But yeah, that initial thought of the game. I want that game. Yeah, I'd buy it. I'd buy it. But Casey Hudson leaves, and it's something that you see at a lot of places. You know, not just gaming studios, but places in general. When that solidified leader, you know, the person who makes decisions and people trust and follow, because when you really break down the majority of people in the population and things like that, there are very few great leaders, right? Most people don't want to be a leader. Most people don't want that position. They don't want that responsibility to lead other people. Most people want to follow someone whom they believe in that vision, right? Hey, that person has a vision. I like that vision. I want to follow that person, right? And I'm entrusting the roadmap of where my life will go to that person's vision, and I'm sharing that vision. So it's hard when someone like that leaves, and then you have to bring in someone else who can then create a new vision and then get people to follow. And honestly, that seems, at the end of the day, for 6 out of the 7 years, or 5.5 out of the 7 years of Anthem development. That was the problem. Casey Hudson leaves, and you're left with a team with no vision. The leadership just couldn't create a solid vision that got people on board and saying we're going this direction. In some cases, hell or high water, we're going in this direction. And obviously, there'll be some stumbles and some mistakes and some learning experiences going along. But this is what we're doing. This is what we're creating. And a lot of, the majority of the article, you get the same sentiment going on. We didn't know what game we were making. We didn't know where we were going next. We had all these ideas and we were excited, but at the end of the day, it's hard for us to lock something in and really create an exciting project when we're not sure what we're making, right? And so they need a leadership to step up there. So a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort. As the article talks, a lot of stress and a lot of burnout. I think a lot of the stress and burnout, especially within game development, partially comes from the difficulty to execute on the vision early on, and then so late stages, once you're coming up against a deadline, then that exemplifies the level of execution that is needed to put out the finished product, right? And then that stresses and burns people out. I'm not a game developer, so I'm not gonna go into how I think the process of making games could be, could be streamlined or changed or improved, because I don't have that expertise, right? I do know of product pipelines outside of that arena, but I'm not going to, throw my 2 cents in a hat on something that I have no experience doing. But I'm assuming that there are a lot of people who are thinking about it, and clearly just from hearing about it, there are some changes that that need to happen, whatever they may be. But many of them may not work out initially, but trying some other things may be what they need to do in order to find what will end up being best. Lack of vision, lack of fighting through some of the difficulties, to execute on that vision seemed to be a huge problem, right? They talk about how the flying mechanic was taken in, put in, taken out, put in, taken out, put in, taken out. When you look at it, that's probably the best thing of that game is the flying mechanic. But it only became such once, former executive, I believe he's left EA, former executive Patrick Soderlund, came to see a demo after not liking the previous demo, enjoying the flying mechanic, and then obviously that was shown at the E3 conference in 2017. But after he was like, yeah, this is what I want, this is exciting, make this game, then they were kind of stuck to having to get it right. And then they got it right, and it became the best part of the game. If someone had made the decision in, 2014, 2015, the flying's in, make it work, right? Let's build this game around this flying mechanic instead of putting it in, taking out, putting it in, taking out. That may have eased development. I don't know. I'm not a developer, like I said, but I'm just looking at it from a concept perspective. And obviously hindsight's 2020, so I got that benefit as well. But the flying is great. I love it. I love it in that game. And obviously there are downfalls. There's, like I said, yin and yang, right? I should probably call this article, this video, yin and yang. There's yin and yang to that. But overall, the flying mechanic's great. And even with some of the downfall parts, it's still one of the best parts of the game, if not the best part of the game. Another thing is they decided, we're going to forge our own game, and we're not going to use any of the tool sets or, expertise that had already been created and launched with Dragon Age, Inquisition, and Mass Effect Andromeda. Right? Now, Mass Effect Andromeda, one of the best parts of it is its shooting, so why would you not just take that mechanic? You know, Dragon Age Inquisition, you know, is a big world that, in my opinion, did well with loading and inventory. And obviously, probably have to adjust the inventory because it's an online game. But they bring in Bioware Austin, who did, you know, Star Wars Old Republic, an online game, and then they don't want to take their expertise from managing an online game, which I think that those guys, if they had already implemented this system from Dragon Age Inquisition, probably could have adjusted and made that work and made it better and improved on it. You know, it seems like obviously those are just poor leadership decisions, right? Those are poor leadership decisions. I get wanting to say, well, we're the A team, so we're gonna do it our way. But at the end of the day, you want to make the best game possible and give your employees the best environment to make the best game possible. So sometimes you need to just let that pride and the ego crap go, right? And do what's going to be best. Like, every team has had issues with Frostbite, right? This is a common trait, right? At this point, you have to, everyone has to be on board with admitting. Every team, Need for Speed team, every team that we've heard that use Frostbite to make these games outside of Battlefield, right, has had issues with Frostbite. And clearly it's a growing pain thing, which I'm going to talk about Frostbite in a second. But clearly it's a growing pain thing, so why not make it as easy as possible and use those existing tool sets from 2 shipped games, right? Shipping a game is hard within itself, right? It being good is a whole nother story, but just shipping it is a whole thing. Dragon Age Inquisition, I love that game. Fantastic game. Also, we knew this after that game got launched, and even was a Game of the Year type game, that Frostbite was a huge issue with them building that game, right? And the reality is, Frostbite, while technically not new, it's new to everything outside of Battlefield. So you're basically building new tools and you're building a new engine, you know, for genres and games. It's new. So everything has to be done from scratch. It's not like they're taking Unreal and hundreds of shipped games, you know, every year or so. I don't know how many actually games ship on Unreal every year, but at this point, you know, a couple hundred games have been shipped on Unreal, and the collaboration tools that have been added, you don't have that, right? So you have to take what you get and use it as best your ability. So they chose not to do that. You know, it's just poor leadership decisions, right? And so I'm not surprised, you know. But that last 18 months or so is the game that we got. And in all honesty, the 18-month dev cycle on what we got, I think was great. I think that giving it another 12 to 18 months, Anthem's probably going to be fantastic, especially with Austin taking over, you know, and having that understanding of what goes well and what does not from a live service, being one of the earlier live services. It actually gives me a pretty optimistic view of where Anthem may go. So, you know, in that regards, I stand with Anthem. Okay, I think Anthem has the opportunity to be good. I think it will be. I think its roadmap looks solid, and as long as they continue to dev out content and improve, you know, those bugs that just couldn't be done because of the time crunch, that it will turn into something that's really fantastic. Now, when new consoles coming out, it's going to get ported. I would assume so. I think it would be the smartest move to port it over to the next, you know, platforms coming. You know, now obviously that's time and man work and stuff. All this, I don't know the bandwidth, but I would assume from EA's perspective, it's probably a good idea. And really, it could be a relaunch for Anthem at that point on new platforms. It could be a relaunch of this game. A lot of people probably will get on board at that point if they had not already done so. And because when new consoles appear, people buy everything, right? Good, bad, indifferent. They buy everything because they're starving for content on their new machines. So that actually would be a great business move for this particular product to do with new machines. So So yeah, I think that there's definitely more to the story that should come out. We probably never will hear it. EA will never actually give us what we should get. Honestly, make it EA and sell it. You know what I mean? Like put a couple games together, sell it, guess make a ton of money. Um, but coming back to Frostbite, right? Because obviously everyone hates EA, and I think going in, actually after launch, I think everyone blamed EA for the problems of this game, and I think overall in reality, EA is not actually the problem here. EA gave them a really long rope to hang themselves. Um, it sounds like the guy that the Dragon Age guy, Mark, I forget his last name already, pulled this title together, bringing Casey Hudson. I'm sure those two guys honestly wrangled this bad boy together, right? And that's why we actually ended up getting a decent product at the end. And not to discount the rest of the team, I'm sure they did incredible work. And but from a leadership perspective, I mean, and yeah, so honestly I am excited to see where we go from there. Um, I am definitely excited for next Dragon Age. I love that series. Out of all of Bioware titles, Dragon Age is actually my favorite. Um, but yeah, so yeah, that's kind of the article. Now getting back to Frostbite, because if you think back about a decade ago under EA's leadership with John Riccitiello, EA had always been under this kind of one in-house proprietary engine type system before, right? And they got away from it because it was not benefiting them, especially when changing platforms. You know, uh, when you're on one platform for a very long time, having one engine across all your teams can be a benefit, especially when you have a lot of teams. But there's been a lot of shrinkage, a lot of consolidation at EA. Layoffs happen, the last couple of weeks and stuff like that. But just overall, right? There's a lot less product being put out by EA, things like that. Um, so now they've shifted back, and this obviously it's been about 5 years or so that they've shifted back to this one engine. Frostbite being the one engine. After moving away from that, from doing it for a long time and it not working, it's weird. You do something, it's not working, so you get away from it. You start doing some other things, and in all honesty, I like the games that came out once they got away from that. So I felt like that was working. But Frostbite being the powerhouse that it is, I see why they want to go back to it. I can't say that it's the best decision. Now, a lot of games have been shipping on Frostbite, a lot of games in different genres. And so, as long as they start to build on those new tool sets instead of saying, "Oh, we're gonna build our own thing," I think it's already been stated that. I think obviously Dragon Age is going to be built off of previous Dragon Age assets, which works well for that. But I think it's kind of already been stated that um, for the future, they're probably not going to. We're going to start our own thing again. Um, but it's going to take a lot of shipped products. And like I said, there's not a ton that EA is shipping every year. There's not a ton of studios, um, working on Frostbite. So it's going to take a lot of shipped product to really then have a solid baseline for Frostbite to then build upon to really start pushing out fantastic games. And so I hope that EA leadership is thinking of this from this perspective. If they're going to continue to push that Frostbite needs to be the engine that every game runs on. Um, you know, uh, and probably bolster the SWAT team for Frostbite as well. Because obviously, yes, I understand that the products that generate the most money gets the most attention. It's like the baby that cries, gets the mother's attention most. That's just a natural human aspect, the prioritization of it. Um, but you can't, why sink millions of dollars into a title that is going to be plagued by problems simply because the support resources aren't there, right? Um, and those support resources primarily being, supporting the engine. So I think EA definitely needs to revisit that. They need to rethink that. I don't think EA ultimately was the problem with Anthem. I think that they gave them a huge investment, a huge reach. And I just hope that they give them the next 12 to 18 months to really turn it around, which I think they will. I think EA has committed that they will get Anthem the time to turn itself around. And if the live service is generating money, then I think it will go further than that. And like I said, putting it out on new platforms, I think will definitely give it the jolt in the arm that it will need. And I'm not 100% convinced that the product hasn't done decently well for them. I know everyone's looking at how many box copies did it sell, but EA has really been like 50-50 on digital and box goods anyways. And then obviously for them, driving Origin subscriptions is way more important at the moment than selling a box copy, because the consistent revenue stream of a subscription service is extremely beneficial than having a title that comes in and gives you a boom, influx of cash, and then you go dormant, waiting for the next one again. And I feel like Anthem and Battlefield actually, and I know they said it was flat on there, but I think in the long term, I think Anthem and Battlefield will do a good job of helping to improve Origin subscription services, which ultimately is what EA wants, right? So yeah, just kind of wrapping up on Frostbite though. Why continue to push Frostbite on every developer you have? I would give them the option of doing so. Now, obviously every team generally has bonus structures and things like that, so you may even reevaluate their bonus structure based on if they don't choose Frostbite, right? Because yeah, there are going to be some royalties that are going to have to be paid to use a different engine that's not in-house, right? But I think that then that gives people the decision ahead, like, well, okay, the game that we're making, we might have a better development cycle, which might make it easier to put out a game, which might allow us to launch a better game that's more financially successful. So we may still end out the same or ahead. Or they can say, well, we're going to have a higher bonus structure if we go with Frostbite, and we think that we can wrangle this engine and still put out a high quality project, so we're going to move forward here, right? I think that that's a decision that EA should give its teams the choice, but we'll see. Frostbite's definitely a strong engine. It's a fantastic engine as far as what it ultimately can do, but it is an engine that needs a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of effort in order to be such a huge cross-genre based engine instead of a Battlefield engine, which is what it was created to be, right? A Battlefield engine. And I think that even DICE has had some struggles as of late, evolving Frostbite to increase the vision of what Battlefield is, with Firestorm, etc. So we'll see. Obviously, no one's gonna take my input on EA except on what they should do with their engine. But I think it's something that they should probably really take a hard look and revisit, and hopefully, at least allow another avenue that's going to give their teams the best opportunity to succeed. So yeah, those are my thoughts. With here ultimately with Anthem, I stand with EA. With Frostbite, I think EA needs to revisit it. The retrospective videos, I stand with EA. So yeah, guys, if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you didn't, hit the down like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next